Welcome to the Z Truth Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back with another exciting episode of Z Truth Podcast, where we have transparent, real, unbiased, thought-provoking, and holistic topics. And I have the one and only Devon from Visual Dynasty here in the background, going to ask some questions about the very exciting topic, which a lot of people might think is boring, but it's essential because it changed my life, which is personal development. But I want to do a little quick shout out to Visual Dynasty. If you're not following them on all platforms already, please go out and really do the darn thing, because if you're wondering where all this great content is coming from, it's coming from them. So let's get into it. The reason I really wanted to talk about personal development, because I felt like it's something that a lot of people may either not be aware that it's needed, or that they just don't do it, right? So I know Devon has some exciting questions, but we're gonna get straight into it. So we're gonna get into our first question.
All right. Okay, so why do you think people resist personal development?
I think it's easy to do and easy not to do. I think also for some reason we get caught up in our daily survival things that we need to do, which is work, which is taking care of our family, which is making sure we eat, and all that all those different things. But I really feel like I don't know if people resist it or if they don't know that it's a necessity. But I know for me, I got into business when I was 18 years old. I was going on 18. And I was horrible at it. I mean, I completely sucked for like 6 or 7 years, trying to figure out how to be an entrepreneur, how to be in sales. And it literally, I had to become a totally different person. And I was very blessed to be a part of something called network marketing. You ever been in network marketing? You ain't never sold no Avon or Primerica or Ameriplan. Shout out to my Ameriplan family. But network marketing, one of the things that they really hit home on is the need of personal development, is the need to think differently, because I feel like you literally cannot think the same if you start in the area of business, because that's just like all these beautiful cameras I have around me. Some people with a certain mindset might think, I don't want to spend too much money on this. But somebody who is trying to create a business and develop a company will look at it but they will look at it as an investment and not something that's costing them anything. If anything, but that took, for me to get to that point, I literally had to change the people I was around. I had to read different books. I had to, YouTube was around back then because it's been around for a minute. But they used to call it taking opportunities to really feed our minds. So back in the day, we used to call the TV the income reducing machine, right? Because that was the thing that would distract people. But now we got a bunch of stuff. We got the TV, we have our phones, I think, are one of the number one distractions, because you can not only just watch TV, you also have social media and all those different things that's there to distract you. So I think today our attention span is so short, and we have so many more distractions than I think we did back in the day, that I feel like that's why we resist it, or we don't step into the actually honing in on the necessity of it. Like almost like taking a shower. Hopefully everybody wash their ass every day, right? But if you don't, you're gonna be a little funky. So it's kind of the same way in our mind. I feel like we don't know that that's just like you take care of your body, you got to take care of your mind as well. So that's how I feel about that.
How do you feel like your life has changed since you started your personal development journey?
I mean, so it's so funny. So when I was in network marketing, we used to have these things called live dials. And what it is a live dial session is a bunch of you and your colleagues get on the phone. You let your top producers listen in on your sales calls. And they would say to you everything that most people today probably would have a problem with doing. You know what I'm saying? Like telling you too loud, telling you that you are too excited on the phone, that you're screaming in the person's ear, or you're not saying the right things, right? And so constructive criticism is one of the biggest, I think, hurdles that people have. And so, like, I'm gonna give you an example. I was on a live dial. I remember this lady's name if she's watching. Her name is Gwen. And her assessment to me was that I am too loud and ghetto. That was her observation of my live dials. She said, if I would have been on the other line, I would want to hang up on you because you're too loud and you sound ghetto, right? And a lot of people would have took that, and I don't know how they would have ran with it. But for me, during my journey of personal development taught me that you can become positively pissed, right? So you take what people say, and I didn't take what she said and just was like, all right, she's trying to be malicious. Could she have said it in a different way? Absolutely. But did I understand what she meant in the way that she said it at the time she said it? Yes, because I was loud. When I went back and listened to it, I still have a very naturally loud voice. However, I've learned to tame it, okay? And I did that by studying someone. Her name was Kelly O'Donnell at the time. I don't know if she got married. I think it was Kelly Fuller, and then it changed to Kelly O'Donnell. But Kelly, shout out to Kelly if you ever hear my podcast, Kelly. But I literally would listen to this woman because she used to do the conference calls every week to announce all of the top producers. And I would study how she would talk, how she still was excited, how she still had a strong voice, but it wasn't screaming in the ears of other people. You know what I mean? And so it changed my life completely. I think if I didn't do personal development, we wouldn't be sitting here today. I don't think my kids would be who they are today. I don't think I would have survived business. I don't think I would have survived probably anything I went through, because one day we're going to have a show about all of that stuff. But I think it helped me to become a resilient person by studying people. And so I'm a bookworm. A lot of people might not know this. But as soon as you, even before I moved here, if you ever been to any of my apartments or wherever I laid my head, you could find a bunch of books somewhere in my house, right? And so I remember the very first book that I was recommended was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you ever heard of that book, but it's by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you know, I'm sure y'all all know Rick Ross. Mm-hmm. In one of his songs, I don't know if y'all know that, but that's Napoleon Hill. That white dude, and I don't know what album it is, but that is Napoleon Hill in the background that's constantly saying like these parables, and then the song comes on. That's Napoleon Hill. And I don't know many successful people who did not come across that book. But the first time I came across of the book was 18. I didn't understand that shit. Like, excuse my French. I didn't understand any of it, right? But I kept reading it, and then it became almost indoctrinated in my spirit, because they kept saying, you know, if you read a book from front to back, you're not going to get all of it. It's almost impossible to retain everything that you read, right? And so I kept reading it, and it was a point where I was reading it once a year. And so then, but before Napoleon Hill, before Think and Grow Rich, I read that book, didn't understand it, but then my second book was called Who Moved My Cheese? And that was a very short, simple book that I recommend to everybody, because it really helps you to understand the need for change, that change is always going to be the inevitable, and to be ready for it. But it was a short read that kind of bit my appetite for personal development. And at that point, I was hungry for information. I wanted to know more. I kept hearing the same message from different people in different books and different seminars. And then it started to hit me that everybody, for the most part, has the same principles that are living the way that I desired at the time. And so because of that, I just locked into the books, the YouTubes, the seminars. I mean, and personal development can be like so many different facets. It doesn't just have to be just reading. So if you're not a bookworm today, they have auto books, right? They have YouTube, you know, they have all these different avenues for us to easily get the information that we need. But like I said earlier with your first question, we literally need to understand that that's even something that you need to do. Because the reality is, if you don't think that that's part of the plan, like the Mamba mentality, if you really listen to what,
Kobe,
thank you. Like, if you listen to what the Mamba mentality was that Kobe used to preach, it's very much the same thing that I would hear in network marketing. It's the same thing I would hear at business seminars. It's the same thing that I would hear in any facet that I would want to explore. So I say all of that to say, because I believe if I'm not having an ADHD moment, that the question was, how did it change my life? I mean, the biggest book that changed my family's life is The Secrets of Happy Families. Like, if you want a family, to start a family, you already have a family, everybody on the planet should read that book. That helped me tremendously with my boys. Like, my sons, I was actually picking up my youngest, because they both work together now. Shout out to my boys, Zyykirrah and Zyykirrah. And I was listening in on a conference call that my son was on, and they're both in sales. And my oldest is like the leader of that particular group. But I never heard him speaking to his people. I never heard him conducting a conference call. And so my youngest son is like, yeah, I got to get on this call, Mom. So he puts it on speakerphone. It's like I'm having this deja vu moment, because this is what I used to do with them. And I would say to them when they were little, hey, I got to get on this call. I need y'all to, you learn how to use the mute button. You give them treats for when they don't act up when you have to be in the car, or you gotta, you know what I'm saying? And I heard this boy conducting himself in a way that I couldn't believe it was him. I was like, that's Zyykirrah. He's like, yes, that's we call him Pumbaa. That's Poem. I'm like, and I'm just listening to him and listening to him and listening to him. And some of the things that he does today are things that they would preach to us, having a morning routine. How many times have we heard that from successful people, that if you wake up and the first thing you do is just grab your phone and you're on social media, or the first thing you do is, I don't know, not do something that's going to help you control the day, because the day will get out of control if you're not in control. Mm-hmm. So like, I remember I would walk past the shower and hear him listening to classical music or something. I'm like, my baby is a geek. But hearing him on that call gave me like a piece that I cannot tell you. You know what I mean? Because one of the things that parents always want to make sure is that they develop children where when we're gone, that you'll be good. And so Secrets of Happy Families, it taught me to have family meetings with my kids. We never did that in our family, never. And most really successful families, like the Rockefellers, and that's the only people I can think of right now off the top of my head. These people used to take dinner as not just dinner, but they used to make that a session to have basically a meeting of the minds. And having the meeting of the mind sessions with your family on top of your business colleagues and even relationships. I haven't really gotten the opportunity to try that part out. I mean, who I was dating at the time would be included in some of those meetings. But as far as just two people in a relationship, they talk about that in that book. So I say all of that to say, and what's the old saying? Devon, you can finish this sentence for me. If you want to hide something from a blank, you put it in a...
You going to help me out with that one? Oh, you put it in the book.
You put it in the book. They say if you want to hide something from a ninja, that's, they say the other word, you put it in the book.
'Cause back then they couldn't.
We
read.
couldn't read, and so that's another thing. Like, think about that. Out of all the things in the world that could be illegal, they made it that you couldn't read. That's a clue. And so when I realized that at a young age, it kind of fired me up as a kid, because I was a bookworm before personal development, but I didn't read personal development books.
Mhm.
I was reading, and God rest his soul, I just really recently found out a few years ago, Eric Jerome Dickey died. He made the book Cheaters. Then Old Girl, The Coldest Winter Ever, Sister Soldier. My teenage girls remember Sister Soldier, right? We all waited for the sequel for 40 years. Sister Soldier disappointed us, right? So these type of books are not bad though, because they help, you're still reading and it's still like exercise to the body, right? But when you specifically read certain things that are going to enhance your thinking, enhance your mind, enhance your overall personal development, I think that it could be revolutionary to you. Somebody who is struggling because they say the moment someone reaches hell is when the person that they are meets the person that they want to be, right? And so that's what when I read that, I said, God damn. That's kind of like hard, that's heavy. But when you look at that, it's like, well, how does the person get from who they are to what they imagine or vision them to be? I believe the answer is personal development. Yeah, that was a long answer to your question.
Hey, it's still a good answer.
Thanks.
Now, are there any moments where you feel like you had to question whether you're growing or just busy?
Oh, yes. So, and it's funny because no matter how much you do personal development, because personal development is different, I think, than healing, but they're one and the same. So we all have experienced trauma of some sort, unless you haven't lived, right? You've experienced, and even in that book, Happy Families, they say most families are dysfunctional. I think it's like 75 to 80% of families are dysfunctional. It's a smaller number, 20%, 15 to 20% of people who are families who are not dysfunctional, but they all tend to do the same things. But there are so many different types of dysfunction, right? Going back to your question, I feel like during your personal development, you are going to be challenged, right? And in those challenges can come triggers. And so sometimes, and then there's like a moment where I remember, I think I used to barely listen to music. It was a point in my life where I barely listened to music, and I would just dump the auto books, the YouTubes, all of that, just constantly embedding my brain. But I was broke as hell then for almost 6 years. You know what I mean? And so in that moment, it could look like I was just being busy. But when I look back on things, I feel like, like that old saying, it's like a picture that used to go viral, and it would show like a big old icicle, right? In the ocean, not icicle. What is those things called?
Iceberg.
Iceberg. You'll see the iceberg that's really tall out the water, but then there's one that has a small peak, but at the bottom, it's like
it gets bigger.
Right. It's hundreds of feet down in the water, and it has a better foundation than that one, but you can't see it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yes, you can. There's a thin line between busy and just being developed, I think. Like it could appear like I'm not moving. It's not happening yet. So like I believe in this. I used to speak on this to the younger girls. I say younger girls because I'm fucking 40, yo. I didn't mean to curse. Anyway, so like we would say to them, we all tell ourselves lies. Like all of us at some point have had said, God, I'm so dumb. Or that was so stupid of me. Or I'm such an idiot. And that's not true. Hopefully you don't really believe it's true, but deep down, if you keep saying it, that's true. So I don't want to say that you have to fake it till you make it, but in some aspects you do, because I am a strong believer in the saying that you have to be, do to have versus have, do, and be. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Meaning you have to be what you want, then you do what it is that you want and have a vision for, and then you will have it. Versus a lot of people think you have to have it to do it, to be it. Right? And that's not, there's nobody on the planet that's successful that does that. If you go back to Kobe, if you go back to Serena Williams, if you go back to Beyonce, and I'm only using these because we all know them, but even people who aren't as famous that are successful, they usually have, there's some footage or something that where they said, or they knew somehow, they had this knowing that they were going to be who we know them to be. Does that make sense? So like, I'll never forget when Serena Williams and her father was on an interview, and Venus was there, and the guy kept asking him, the interviewer kept asking the same question. Well, how do you know you're going to be the best tennis player? How do you know you're going to be the best tennis player? Well, what if this happens? And then the father cuts him off and was like, bruh, she said she going to be the best in the world. Stop questioning her and trying to put doubt in my daughter. But that happened before she was the best in the world. So that's why I strongly believe that we have so many examples of so many people who live their dreams and realize those things because they decided to be it, they begin to do it, and that's why they have it.
Do you feel like it's important to be kind? And if so, do you feel like it's undervalued?
I think it can be undervalued. I think kindness is the highest form of intelligence, though. Because while some people might think it's easy to just pop off on people, right? Well, let me just first say this. I believe most human beings are good people. Most of us have good in us. And there's only a few bad seeds that kind of roam around. Like even the Ted Bundys of the world, right? You could say, you know, is this guy a complete douchebag? Well, probably so, because he killed a lot of people, right? But that's rare. I would hope that that's rare. That's what I'll say. I hope that that's rare. So I do believe most people are good people and have good in them. However, because we're humans, we have certain things within us. And I'll drop one more book that I think is revolutionary, which is The Law of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Same author as 48 Laws of Power. A lot of people think 48 Laws of Power is his best book, but I would challenge them that The Law of Human Nature is his best book. I got it right to my right, and I keep reading. It's my fourth time reading it. But what he talks about in that book, and a lot of books I've read, is that we naturally have tendencies that challenge us to be kind people. Meaning, like, you know, I work with kids. A lot of you may or may not know that, but I do work with kids. So I get a reminder on a regular basis that we have very selfish tendencies. We think it's all about us, and those type of things have to be guided, right? But we're challenged. Like if a kid is playing with a toy and another kid snatches it from their hands, that's not really likely to happen to an adult. But there's a lot of passive aggressive people. There's a lot of people who are aggressive. There's a lot of people who are suffer from personality disorders, and they challenge the kindness of us. But do I think that it's underappreciated? It can be with the wrong person, because a lot of times people can undermine and think, like the old saying, don't take my kindness as a weakness. And they could see it as a sign that this person is pliable, or this person is easily to manipulate, or this person is somebody that I can push over because they are extending an olive branch of kindness to them. And in reality, from my experience, I think I'm a very kind person, but I'm not no punk, and I'm not no slouch, and you're not going to keep playing with me, and you're not going to keep but there's ways to do it. Some people may lash out. Like some people allow their triggers, or it depends on the relationship, to make them go off. And in reality, it takes more energy, it takes more discipline to not want to knock someone's head off when you feel like they deserve it, versus to be kind and to just eliminate the connection. Because when you are a good person and you are a kind person, the one thing that I believe that any of us can do is to reward people with your absence, okay? Because when you do that, I feel like that takes way more strength than going off. That's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen that interview with Mike Tyson. And he's, Mike Tyson at one point was a freaking hothead. And he had to be. I mean, he was the heavyweight champion of the world. I actually have a very huge respect for Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. And the reason I have a respect for him, because a lot of us don't get to see each other's evolution, right? We got to see Mike when he first came, and then we got to see Mike when he was like losing his mind after his mentor was killed. I mean, not killed, when his mentor passed away. And then I'll never forget when he was on stage. This was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe it was longer than that. But this guy's interviewing him, and he brings up his rape charge, right? I don't know if you saw that, but
I think I seen it. Yeah.
It was a black guy in a suit. He was the interviewer. His PR person was with Mike, and it was Mike, the PR person, and the guy. And he says, well, how does the mayor feel about, an ex-rapist done something? So then immediately you see the shift in Mike Tyson. And he doesn't go off on him, but he said, you look like a nice guy, but you're a rat piece of shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And this used to be, his hands are a legal weapon, right? Listed as a legal weapon. Mike used to knock a person out we used to get frustrated because back then you had to pay pay-per-view. So you would pay, $100 for this pay-per-view for it to be like, done. He's dead. He's on the ground. He knocked him out. And so it became Knockout Mike? What was his nickname?
Iron Mike.
Iron Mike. I said Knockout Mike. But he would knock people out. So we know in that moment, without a shadow of a doubt, he could murder that man with his hands. He could have thrashed him, beat the brakes off of him, but instead he chose to just be direct and tell him like it is. Yeah, you are a rat piece of shit. And then he said, F you at the end. Now, some people might be like, oh, Mike, that was not the best way to go about it. But when you look at where he was and where he is now, that guy should have took that as a blessing. And it made me respect him to a whole other level, because I'm sure it take restraint, because at the end of the day, I don't know if he really did that charge or whatever the case is, and we don't know what the case was, right? But to say that after decades later, it wasn't a nice thing. So while from the naked eye, it could appear that he was the one that wasn't being kind, it really was that person. But in those type of moments, sometimes you have to remind people like, I'm Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think kindness is the highest form of intelligence, because it takes a level of discipline. It takes a level of knowing self to be able to do that, even in the moments where these people don't really deserve your kindness. And then they challenge and trigger the human side of us, which is animal-like. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Mike envisioned knocking him out. Mm-hmm. I envisioned him doing it, and I'm not even Mike. You know what I mean? And so in those moments where we're challenged to get outside of our personal development, to get outside of the triggers and trauma or whatever, because you're interacting with someone who isn't kind, I think that's where we are able to display our level of kindness, right? But I say all that to say it can be, I don't think it's unappreciated to the right person, but I do think there is a group of people that may not value it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they do learn to value it before it's too late and they come across the one who isn't that kind. But that's all I got for that.
Welcome to the Z Truth Podcast, where we have transparent, real, and thought-provoking conversations. Your host is Zyykirrah, the author of 15 social media secrets that pay. So let's get real, get honest, and get started.